Commander Jay-Woo Park stood at the observation deck of Earth Space Station Omega, his eyes fixed on the stars. 15 years in Earth's Space Force had hardened him into a man of few words and fewer expectations. The endless void of space had become routine. Until today. "Sir," sensors detecting an unknown object approaching from Saturn's rings. Lieutenant Hana's voice crackled through his earpiece. "Classification?" Jay-Woo asked, already moving toward the command center. "Unknown, sir. It's not matching any Earth or Mars vessel profiles." Jay-Woo quickened his pace. By the time he reached the command center, the situation had evolved. The main screen showed a sleek, silver craft moving with impossible grace through the darkness. Its surface shimmered with an iridescent glow that seemed to bend the light around it. "It's slowing down," Hannah reported, her fingers flying across the control panel. "Coming to a stop at Dock Point Alpha." "Are they hostile?" Jay-Woo asked, studying the vessel. It had no visible weapons systems, but that meant nothing in space. "No aggressive movements, sir." "There?" Hannah paused, disbelief crossing her face. "They're requesting permission to dock." The command center fell silent. First contact. After centuries of searching the stars, the aliens had simply shown up and asked to come aboard. "Alert Earth Command," Jay-Woo ordered. "Security team to Airlock 7. I'll meet our guests personally." As he made his way to the airlock, Jay-Woo's mind raced. His training had covered countless scenarios, but nothing quite like this. The security team was already in position when he arrived, their faces a mixture of fear and excitement. "Weapons ready but not raised," he instructed them. "Let's not start an interstellar incident." The airlock cycled with a hiss of pressurized air. The inner door slid open, and Jay-Woo found himself face to face with something. Someone from beyond Earth. She was humanoid, with 2 arms, 2 legs, and a face that was almost, but not quite, human. Her skin was a soft lavender color that seemed to glow from within. Her eyes were large and unlike anything Jay-Woo had ever seen. They shifted colors like an oil slick under sunlight, from deep purple to bright gold, and back again. "Greetings," she said in perfect, if oddly musical English. "I am Neri of the Orion Alliance. I come in peace to your world." Jay-Woo stared, momentarily speechless. The alien, Neri, smiled, revealing teeth that were pearly white and just slightly sharper than human ones. "You speak our language," he finally managed. "I learned it from your transmissions," she explained. "Your television and radio signals extend far into space. We have been studying them for some time." Jay-Woo nodded, trying to process this information. "Why have you come to Earth?" Neri's smile widened. "I have been sent as a gift to your leaders, a cosmic Courtesan to ensure good relations between our peoples." Behind him, Jay-Woo heard several of his security team shifting uncomfortably. "I'm sorry." "A what?" he asked, certain he had misunderstood. "A Courtesan," Neri repeated, as if it were the most natural thing in the universe. "In your terms, perhaps diplomatic companion would be more accurate. I am trained in all arts of pleasure and negotiation to serve as a living bond between our species." Jay-Woo felt heat rising to his face. "Ms. Neri, that's not how we conduct diplomacy on Earth." Confusion crossed Neri's alien features. "No. In the 17 systems of the Orion Alliance, this is standard protocol for first contact." "Well, we have different customs here," Jay-Woo said firmly. "I'll need to escort you to Earth. Our leaders will want to speak with you directly." "As you wish," Neri replied, seeming untroubled by this change in plans. During the shuttle ride to Earth, Neri peppered Jay-Woo with questions about human culture, customs, and biology. Her curiosity seemed genuine, and despite his initial discomfort, Jay-Woo found himself warming to her. "Your species forms bonds through shared ideas, not physical connections," she asked, after he had explained the basics of human diplomacy. "Something like that," Jay-Woo replied. "We value autonomy and consent." "Fascinating," Neri said, gazing out the window at the approaching blue planet. On my world, physical bonds are considered the most sincere form of alliance. Words can deceive, but bodies cannot lie. That may be true for your species, Jay-Wu said carefully. But humans are different. Neri nodded thoughtfully. Every new world, new rules. This is why I trained for 30 cycles to become a diplomatic envoy. As Earth grew larger in the viewport, Jay-Wu observed Neri's reaction. Her color-shifting eyes widened, and her lavender skin seemed to glow brighter. "It's more beautiful than our scan suggested," she whispered. Their arrival at Earth's central spaceport created an immediate sensation. Despite attempts to keep Neri's existence secret, news of an alien visitor spread quickly. By the time they reached the United Earth headquarters in Seoul, crowds had gathered, hoping for a glimpse of humanity's first extraterrestrial visitor. Inside the secure conference room, Earth's highest-ranking officials waited nervously. Director Soo-Jin Lee of the Global Intelligence Agency stepped forward as Jay-Wu escorted Neri in. "Welcome to Earth," Soo-Jin said formally. "I am Director Lee, representing United Earth Security Council." Neri bowed deeply, a gesture she must have learned from human broadcasts. "I am honored to meet you, Director Lee. I bring greetings from the Orion Alliance." "We have many questions," Soo-Jin said, gesturing to the table where military and scientific leaders waited. "And I have answers," Neri replied with a smile, "though perhaps not all the ones you seek." The meeting lasted hours. Neri explained that the Orion Alliance was a coalition of 17 star systems that had achieved interstellar travel centuries ago. Earth had been observed for decades, but only recently had the Alliance decided formal contact was appropriate. "Why now?" asked the Secretary General. Neri's expression grew serious. "Because you are not alone in this sector of space. There are others who have noticed your world, some with less friendly intentions." A chill ran through the room. Jay-Wu, standing by the door, felt his stomach tighten. "Are you saying Earth is in danger?" Soo-Jin asked directly. "Not immediately," Neri replied. "But within your lifetime, yes. The Alliance believes you would benefit from our protection." "And what do you want in return?" Jay-Wu found himself asking. All eyes turned to him, but he held Neri's gaze. For a moment, something flickered across Neri's alien features. Uncertainty, perhaps, or something deeper. Then she smiled again. "Cultural exchange, scientific knowledge, trade routes, the usual benefits of diplomacy." Later, as Jay-Wu escorted Neri to her assigned quarters, he couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't telling them everything. "Commander Park," she said softly as they reached her door. "You don't trust me." It wasn't a question. Jay-Wu considered denying it, then decided on honesty. "I don't know you well enough to trust or distrust you," he said. "But I know that no one crosses the stars just to make friends." Neri's eyes shifted to a deep blue, a color he hadn't seen before. "Wise of you," she murmured. "Perhaps there is more to discuss. Tomorrow." Jay-Wu nodded, suddenly aware of how close they were standing. Tomorrow. After lunch, they walked along the Han River. Children pointed and stared at Neri, but she only smiled and waved back. One brave little girl approached and asked if Neri was a fairy. "Something like that," Neri replied gently, kneeling to the child's level. "I come from very far away." "Your eyes are pretty," the girl said. "Can I have eyes like that?" "Your eyes are perfect just as they are," Neri told her. "They see the world in a way only you can." Later, as sunset painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, they sat on a bench overlooking the river. "Thank you for today," Neri said quietly. "I've learned more about humans in these few hours than in all my previous studies." "What did you learn?" Jay-Wu asked. "That you value connection as much as my people do, but express it differently. That you find joy in small things, good food, children's laughter, a beautiful sunset." She paused. "And that some humans, at least, are willing to see beyond differences." Jay-Woo felt a strange warmth in his chest. We're not so different, maybe. Perhaps not, Neri agreed. She seemed about to say more, then hesitated. What is it? Jay-Woo prompted. Neri looked around, ensuring they were alone. Jay-Woo, I must tell you something important, something I haven't shared with your leaders. The warmth in his chest cooled. So Director Lee was right to be suspicious. Not in the way she thinks, Neri said quickly. I haven't lied about the Alliance or the threats to Earth, but I haven't been entirely truthful about myself. Jay-Woo waited, his body tensing. I am not actually a diplomatic courtesan, Neri said, her voice dropping to a whisper. That is merely my cover. Then who are you really? Jay-Woo asked, already calculating how quickly he could alert security if necessary. I am Neri, former crown princess of the stellar kingdom of Lyra, a member world of the Orion Alliance. Her eyes had shifted to a deep, serious purple. I fled an arranged marriage to the warlord of Rigel. The diplomatic mission is my cover story. Jay-Woo stared at her, trying to process this revelation. You're a runaway princess. I prefer political refugee, Neri said with a faint smile that quickly faded. The marriage was not merely a personal matter. It was meant to cement an alliance between Lyra and the Rigelian Empire, a brutal regime that my parents feared, but I refused to appease. So you ran away to Earth. Why here? Because your world is known throughout the galaxy for its fierce independence, Neri explained, and because the Rigelians consider Earth too primitive to search for me here. Jay-Woo ran a hand through his hair, trying to make sense of it all. Does the Orion Alliance know you're here? No, Neri admitted. They believe I disappeared during transit to Rigel. If they discover my location, they will likely demand my return to prevent conflict with the Rigelians. And the threat to Earth you mentioned. Real, Neri said firmly. The Rigelians have been planning expansion into this sector for years. My marriage was part of their strategy, keeping Lyra neutral while they prepare their forces. Jay-Woo stood up, pacing in front of the bench. I have to report this. You've put Earth in danger by coming here. I know, Neri said, rising to face him. And I will accept whatever consequences come. But know this, the information I possess about Rigelian military capabilities and plans could help protect Earth, whether I stay or go. Jay-Woo looked at her, this alien princess who had risked everything for freedom. Part of him wanted to believe her. Another part remembered his duty. I need time to think, he said finally. Of course, Neri replied, her eyes now a sad blue-gray. But we may not have much time left. The Alliance has ways of tracking their own. As they walked back to their transport in silence, Jay-Woo wondered how a simple escort assignment had become so complicated. One thing was certain, Earth's first contact with alien life was nothing like anyone had expected. Jay-Woo didn't sleep that night. Neri's confession weighed heavily on him as he paced his small apartment, watching the Seoul skyline through his window. By morning, he had made his decision. He would report everything to Director Soo-jin. But first, he needed to hear the full story from Neri. He found her in the gardens of the diplomatic residence where she was staying. Despite the early hour, she was awake, sitting cross-legged on the grass. Her skin glowed softly in the morning light as she performed what appeared to be a meditation ritual. I knew you would come, she said without opening her eyes. When she finally looked at him, her eyes were a calm, clear blue. I need the truth, Jay-Woo said. All of it. Neri nodded and gestured for him to sit beside her on the grass. Ask what you will. Start with who you really are. As I told you, I am Princess Neri of Lyra, third daughter of Queen Mina. My world has been part of the Orion Alliance for 7 generations. She plucked a blade of grass, examining it between her fingers. 2 months ago, my mother informed me I was to marry Warlord's son of Rigel to secure a non-aggression pact. And you refused. I tried to refuse, Neri corrected. But royal children do not have that luxury. When I realized my parents would not relent, I disappeared during the journey to meet my betrothed. How did you end up at Earth? I bribed a cargo pilot to bring me to the edge of Alliance space. From there, I acquired a small diplomatic vessel. You stole a ship, Jae-woo interrupted. Neri's skin darkened slightly. I prefer commandeered. I am royal. After all, despite everything, Jae-woo found himself fighting a smile. And then you came to Earth. Why? For exactly the reason I told you. Earth is known for its independence, and the Regilians consider your planet too primitive to bother with, for now. Her expression grew serious, but that will change soon. The marriage alliance was just one part of a larger Regilian. Commander Tae's glowing eyes narrowed. We seek a fugitive who has taken refuge on your world, Princess Neri of Lyra, who has violated our most sacred laws by fleeing an arranged union. Our scans indicate she is in your facility at this moment. All eyes turned to Neri, who stood tall despite the sudden attention. Return her immediately, Commander Ta continued, or Earth will face severe diplomatic consequences. You have 1 hour to comply. The transmission ended, leaving the room in stunned silence. You failed to mention you were a wanted criminal. Director Soo-jin said coldly to Neri. I am not a criminal, Neri replied. I am a refugee seeking asylum. A refugee who has brought an alien warship to our doorstep, one of the generals shouted. The room erupted in angry voices, some demanding Neri be handed over immediately, others arguing for Earth's sovereignty. Quiet. The Secretary General's voice cut through the chaos. When silence fell, she turned to Neri. Princess, you have placed our world in a difficult position. What exactly would these severe consequences entail? Economic sanctions, most likely, Neri answered honestly. The Alliance doesn't go to war over family disputes, but there's something more important you should know. She stepped closer to the holographic display. Commander Tai is not telling you everything. The marriage I fled was not merely a personal matter. It was part of a strategic alliance with the Regilian Empire. The same Regilians you claim are planning to invade this sector. Soo-jin asked skeptically. Yes, Neri confirmed. And sooner than I initially believed. Within 3 of your Earth months, according to the intelligence I gathered before my escape. Jae-woo stepped forward. If what she says is true, we need her knowledge. If what she says is true, Soo-jin countered. For all we know, this could be an elaborate deception. Neri's eyes flashed a frustrated red. Why would I invent such a story? What would I gain? Asylum on Earth, Soo-jin suggested. Protection from whatever you're really running from. The debate continued as the clock ticked down. Finally, with 15 minutes remaining in Commander Tae's ultimatum, Neri raised her hand for silence. I can prove what I'm saying, she announced, but I'll need access to your communication systems. After a brief discussion, the Secretary General granted permission. Neri quickly began entering a complex sequence of codes into the Earth communication console. What are you doing? Jae-woo asked, watching over her shoulder. Accessing the Alliance diplomatic database using my royal credentials, Neri explained. If they haven't been revoked yet. The screen flickered, then filled with alien text and diagrams. Neri smiled triumphantly. There, these are the classified reports on Rigilian fleet movements from the past 6 months. She quickly translated, showing how Rigilian warships have been moving into position near Earth's solar system, hidden behind the cover of routine patrols and training exercises. And here, she continued, pulling up another file, is the marriage agreement between Lyra and Rigel, with the hidden military provisions in the appendices. The room fell silent as the implications became clear. The threat was real and imminent. 1 minute remaining, an aide announced nervously. The Secretary General looked at Neri, then at the diplomatic advisors around her. Finally, she straightened her shoulders and faced the communication screen. Open the channel to the Alliance vessel, she ordered. Commander Tae's stern face appeared once more. Your time is up. What is your decision? Dr. Hai-jin, Earth's leading weapons physicist, examined the device with undisguised excitement. The principles are similar to some experimental technology we've been working on. With your knowledge of Regilian shields, we might be able to complete it. For the next week, Jae-woo watched as an unlikely alliance formed between human scientists and the alien princess. Together, they worked around the clock to prepare Earth's defenses. Meanwhile, Earth's diplomatic team continued negotiations with Commander Tai, trying to buy more time. On the 8th day after discovering the prototype weapon, the situation changed dramatically. Jae-woo was woken in the middle of the night by an urgent alert. Earth's long-range sensors had detected multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel near Mars. By the time he reached the command center, the situation was already clear. The Rigilians had arrived early, and in far greater numbers than expected. 7 warships, Admiral Yuna reported grimly, heavily armed and on direct course for Earth. "What about the Alliance vessel?" Jae-woo asked. "They've moved to a higher orbit, observing but not engaging." Neri arrived moments later, her eyes a worried amber. "They weren't supposed to come so soon," she said, studying the tactical display. "Something must have changed their timeline. Or someone told them you were here," Director Soo-jin suggested coldly. Before Nari could respond, a communication request came through. The main screen filled with the image of a Regilian commander, tall, with gray skin, and 6 yellow eyes arranged in a circular pattern around a lipless mouth. "People of Earth," the commander's voice was harsh and metallic. "I am Warlord Son of the Regilian Empire. You harbor a fugitive who belongs to me by right of contract. Surrender Princess Neri immediately, or face the consequences." The Secretary General stepped forward. "Warlord Son, Earth recognizes no contract that treats sentient beings as property. Princess Neri has requested asylum, which we have granted." The Warlord's 6 eyes blinked in sequence. "Then you have chosen destruction. We will take her from the ashes of your world." The screen went dark. "They're powering weapons," reported the sensor officer. "Launch all defense platforms," Admiral Yuna ordered, "and get our ships in the air." Earth's relatively small space fleet scrambled to meet the threat, but everyone knew they were outmatched. The prototype weapon wasn't ready, and even if it were, they had only one. "We need more time," Dr. Hai-jin said desperately. "Just 24 more hours, and we could have the weapon ready and replicated." Jae-woo looked at Neri, whose eyes had shifted to a determined purple. "There might be a way," she said quietly. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "If I surrender myself to Warlord Son, I could buy you that time." "No," Jae-woo said firmly. "That's not an option." "It's the only option that doesn't involve immediate bloodshed," Neri argued. "Once I'm aboard his ship, I can delay, negotiate, perhaps even sabotage their systems. I know Rigilian ships better than anyone here." Director Soo-jin, who had been listening nearby, stepped closer. "It's too risky. They might simply attack anyway once they have you." "Not if the Alliance ship is watching," Nari pointed out. "Warlord Son won't risk open violation of diplomatic protocols with the Alliance as witness. It would give them the justification they need to intervene." A tense debate followed, but time was running out. The Rigilian ships had taken up attack positions around Earth. "Let me do this," Neri said, looking directly at Jae-woo. "Trust me." Against his better judgment, Jae-woo found himself agreeing. A plan quickly took shape. Neri would surrender herself, while Earth's scientists worked frantically to complete and reproduce the prototype weapon. As Neri prepared to board a small shuttle that would take her to the Regilian flagship, Jae-woo pulled her aside. "This is a bad plan," he said quietly. Commander Jae-woo Park stood at the observation deck of Earth Space Station Omega, his eyes fixed on the stars. 15 years in Earth's Space Force had hardened him into a man of few words and fewer expectations. The endless void of space had become routine. Until today. "Sir," sensors detecting an unknown object approaching from Saturn's rings. Lieutenant Hana's voice crackled through his earpiece. Classification, Jay Wu asked, already moving toward the command center. Unknown, sir. It's not matching any Earth or Mars vessel profiles. Jay Wu quickened his pace. By the time he reached the command center, the situation had evolved. The main screen showed a sleek, silver craft moving with impossible grace through the darkness. Its surface shimmered with an iridescent glow that seemed to bend the light around it. "It's slowing down," Hannah reported, her fingers flying across the control panel. "Coming to a stop at Dock Point Alpha." "Are they hostile?" Jay Wu asked, studying the vessel. It had no visible weapons systems, but that meant nothing in space. "No aggressive movements, sir." "There?" Hannah paused, disbelief crossing her face. "They're requesting permission to dock." The command center fell silent. First contact. After centuries of searching the stars, the aliens had simply shown up and asked to come aboard. "Alert Earth Command," Jay Wu ordered. "Security team to Airlock 7. I'll meet our guests personally." As he made his way to the airlock, Jay Wu's mind raced. His training had covered countless scenarios, but nothing quite like this. The security team was already in position when he arrived, their faces a mixture of fear and excitement. "Weapons ready but not raised," he instructed them. "Let's not start an interstellar incident." The airlock cycled with a hiss of pressurized air. The inner door slid open, and Jay Wu found himself face to face with something. Someone from beyond Earth. She was humanoid, with 2 arms, 2 legs, and a face that was almost, but not quite, human. Her skin was a soft lavender color that seemed to glow from within. Her eyes were large and unlike anything Jay Wu had ever seen. They shifted colors like an oil slick under sunlight, from deep purple to bright gold, and back again. "Greetings," she said in perfect, if oddly musical English. "I am Neri of the Orion Alliance. I come in peace to your world." Jay Wu stared, momentarily speechless. The alien, Neri, smiled, revealing teeth that were pearly white and just slightly sharper than human ones. "You speak our language," he finally managed. "I learned it from your transmissions," she explained. "Your television and radio signals extend far into space. We have been studying them for some time." Jay Wu nodded, trying to process this information. "Why have you come to Earth?" Neri's smile widened. "I have been sent as a gift to your leaders, a cosmic Courtesan to ensure good relations between our peoples." Behind him, Jay Wu heard several of his security team shifting uncomfortably. "I'm sorry." "A what?" he asked, certain he had misunderstood. "A Courtesan," Neri repeated, as if it were the most natural thing in the universe. "In your terms, perhaps diplomatic companion would be more accurate. I am trained in all arts of pleasure and negotiation to serve as a living bond between our species." Jay Wu felt heat rising to his face. "Ms. Neri, that's not how we conduct diplomacy on Earth." Confusion crossed Neri's alien features. "No. In the 17 systems of the Orion Alliance, this is standard protocol for first contact." "Well, we have different customs here," Jay Wu said firmly. "I'll need to escort you to Earth. Our leaders will want to speak with you directly." "As you wish," Neri replied, seeming untroubled by this change in plans. Just as they came into firing range, a brilliant beam of energy sliced through space, striking one Rigelian fighter. It exploded in a silent flash. The second fighter veered away, only to be caught in another beam. The Alliance battlecruiser had fired its weapons. "The Alliance is actively engaging the Rigelians," Lieutenant Hannah reported, her voice rising with excitement. What followed was a battle unlike anything Earth had witnessed. The Alliance battlecruiser faced off against the 7 Rigelian warships, its advanced weapons tearing through their shields. The Rigelians returned fire, their weapons equally devastating. Meanwhile, Neri's shuttle continued its approach to Earth, protected now by both human and Alliance vessels. "Shuttle requesting emergency landing clearance," the communications officer announced. "Granted," Admiral Yuna replied immediately. Commander Park, meet Princess Neri at Landing Bay 3. Jay-Woo ran through the corridors of the Earth Defense Headquarters, his heart pounding. By the time he reached the landing bay, Neri's shuttle was touching down. Its hull scorched from near misses. The shuttle door opened, and Neri emerged, looking exhausted but unharmed. Her eyes were a bright, victorious purple. "You made it," Jay-Woo said, finding himself suddenly at a loss for words. "Did you doubt me?" Neri asked with a tired smile. For a moment there, yes. He stepped forward, resisting the urge to embrace her. "What happened up there?" "I kept Warlord Sun talking in circles for hours," Neri explained as they hurried back toward the command center. "And I may have sabotaged their primary weapon systems before I left." Jay-Woo couldn't help but laugh. "You're full of surprises." "I also contacted the Alliance," Neri continued. "I convinced Commander Tab that the Rigelians were violating treaty agreements. It seems he called for reinforcements." When they reached the command center, the situation had changed dramatically. The Alliance battlecruiser had been joined by 2 more Alliance vessels. Together, they had forced the Rigelian fleet into retreat. On the main screen, Warlord Sun's face appeared once more, his 6 eyes now fixed in a pattern of rage. "This is not over," he hissed. "The Rigelian Empire does not forget insults." The screen split to show Commander Tai as well. "Neither does the Orion Alliance forget treaty violations," he replied calmly. "Return to your territory, Warlord. Earth is now under Alliance protection." The battle ended as suddenly as it had begun. The Rigelian ships gathered their damaged vessels and disappeared into faster-than-light travel, retreating toward the edge of the solar system. In the days that followed, a new era began for Earth. Formal diplomatic relations were established with the Orion Alliance. Commander Tai, who had initially come to return Neri to her arranged marriage, now proposed that she serve as official liaison between Earth and the Alliance. "They want me to stay," Neri told Jay-Woo one evening as they stood on the balcony of the new Interstellar Relations building in Seoul, as Earth's ambassador to the Alliance. The setting sun painted the sky in shades of purple and gold that reminded Jay-Woo of Neri's color-shifting eyes. "And what do you want?" he asked. Neri's eyes shifted to a soft, warm blue as she looked at him. "For the first time in my life, I have the freedom to choose. No royal obligations, no arranged marriages, no predestined path." She smiled. "It's terrifying and wonderful." "You'd be good at it," Jay-Woo said. "You already saved Earth once." "With help," Neri reminded him. "I couldn't have done it alone." 3 months later, Earth celebrated the official opening of its first extraterrestrial embassy. Ambassador Neri stood before a crowd of humans and Alliance representatives, her diplomatic robes blending Earth fashion with subtle elements of her homeworld. "Today marks a new beginning," she said, her voice carrying across the hushed audience. "Not just for Earth, or for the Alliance, but for me as well. When I arrived here, I was running away from a life I didn't choose. Now, I stand before you having chosen a new path, one of cooperation, understanding, and peace." From his position near the stage, Jay-Woo watched with pride. He had been appointed head of the new Interstellar Security Force, tasked with protecting Earth's growing presence in galactic affairs. After the ceremony, he found Neri in a quiet corner of the reception, momentarily free from the diplomats seeking her attention. "Ambassador," he said with a formal bow that made her laugh. "Commander," she replied with equal formality, her eyes shifting to the playful green he had come to associate with her happiness. "What do you think of all this?" Jay-Woo looked around at the mixed crowd of humans and aliens, talking, laughing, and building bridges between worlds. "I think it's just the beginning." Neri nodded, her expression growing thoughtful. "When I first came to Earth claiming to be a cosmic courtesan, I never imagined I'd become a real diplomat." "Life is full of surprises," Jay-Woo agreed. "Speaking of which, the Alliance has approved my request to serve as Earth's security liaison on their central world. I leave next month. Nari's eyes widened, shifting to a bright, hopeful blue. You're coming to the Alliance. Someone needs to keep an eye on our ambassador, he said with a smile. Besides, I hear the view of the twin suns is spectacular. As the celebration continued around them, Nari reached out and pressed her forehead gently to his, the intimate gesture of her people that she had shared with him once before. My days of mischief are truly over, she whispered. But I think our adventure is just beginning.